Hello everyone, I'm Gardiner, Project Officer in the Curdies area. I've been down there since about 2006. Know some of you and happy to get to know some more of you after. Okay, this is the Curdies River Catchment, as you can see in the yellow, within the yellow boundary. So every little drop of water that falls inside there ends up going along those red lines. The Curdies main stem, which you can see going up to Purrumbete, and then this very important subcatchment, the Scots Creek and the Currimungal Black Glen subcatchment. And that's pretty important because as Beth said before, there's a lot of water that lands in that area and all goes down there. And when we did our waterway strategy many years ago in the early 2000s, we identified this area as being the major contributor to problematic issues down here in the estuary. So we identified the estuary as having values that we wanted to protect, such as community engagement values and social activity values, fishing, swimming, boating, etc. And we knew that the things that were happening in this subcatchment, mainly due to land clearing and intensive farming, were contributing nutrients and sediment and so on down to the estuary. So we decided we wanted to sort of prioritise this as an area to work in. What we do in our area is willow removal, riparian fencing or fencing off the river to keep stock out, revegetation, putting native vegetation back in the riverbanks, erosion control, both on the banks and in the bed, enhancing fish passage so that fish can move up and down the waterway, and improving the in-stream habitat for the fish, which usually means putting large wood back into the system. This is where we've been doing what we do. So the red bits of the waterway are the priority areas. The green bits are where we've done projects, usually fencing off the waterway on both sides of the rivers and creeks. So as you can see, we've pretty much done both sides of the estuary and some of these other important parts, as I said before, in Scots Creek, that contributes to the bad stuff that goes down here. And the blue sections are where we fenced off one side. So we've just got to get the other landholder on the other side on board in some of those areas. Why we do it? Well, this is why we do it, because probably a lot of you have heard about the Heytesbury clearances. So back in the day, there was, you know, in the 40s, 50s, up to the 70s, there was a lot of bush cleared, and obviously that's exposed a lot of the country. It's just left open country, and it's exposed basically the bare soil to the rainfall, you know, and unless it gets well grassed, of course, but there's been a lot of bare sites, and also the waterways. As you can see here, a lot of the riparian vegetation has been removed. So sometimes you get these thin strips of trees left along the rivers, such as you had down at Scots Creek, but they're not really enough. They're not anywhere near wide enough. You know, to have a good healthy waterway, you want 50 metres of native bush on either side to have a good system. And you can see here immediately after the clearance work how much bare ground has been left, and that's when you start to get problems such as this. So this is Scots Creek down near Murfitts Road. If you stand on the bridge at Murfitts Road and you look to the west, this would have been just 100 metres or so up into the bush up there. This is the old-fashioned way to stop erosion, but you can see what happens. You know, when the land is cleared and there's no riparian bush, the banks just get wider and wider, and the bed just gets deeper and deeper because you just don't have that vegetation matter holding it together. This was an attempt to slow the water down as it goes through, and it probably worked to a degree, because nowadays if you go down there you can still see some of the old railway sleepers in concrete in the banks, and the bank's probably about as wide as two pieces of concrete. But we prefer to use different methods these days, which I'll show you in a moment. This is a quick chart to show you what happens when you clear the country. So this compares to sorts of catchments. And interestingly enough, you can compare the two catchments in the Curdies and the Gellibrand. They're both about the same size, being about 1,200 square kilometres. But obviously the Curdies has been a lot more cleared. And so this is the effect you get on the Curdies, where the water just drains off really quickly. And this is the effect you get in the Gellibrand, where it just goes more slowly. And I've been reliably informed that the Curdies, the same amount of rain falling on both catchments takes half as quickly to clear through the Curdies system as it does through the Gellibrand system. And I'll show you why. This is one of our project sites down at the estuary at Peterborough. And you see on the right here where the stock love to walk along the fence, and it's quite compacted, and you can see the water gathering on top of the soil, and that'll run off quickly down into the estuary, and it'll take all that mud and cow poo with it. Whereas on the left, our revegetation site, any water, any rain that's falling on that, it's going to, pitter patter through the leaves and sprinkle gently down to the earth, and then dribble into the earth following the root lines and so on. So that's what we want in a healthy catchment area. This is one of our willow removal jobs. This is at the Curdies River up at Jan Court. It's just pure willows basically, and the reason why we have to get rid of those is because it's a monoculture. So you'll only get a small amount of insects and birds living in that area, whereas if we do this, take them all out and expose the bank, plant native plants, all these trees and different plants, when they're fully matured, they will have a more natural collection of insects and birds, what would have originally been in this area in the first place. And that all contributes, it's all part of the circle of life, and it all mixes together. And so those bugs that live in there will be falling into the water, and the fish will be eating them. And that's how it's meant to be. This is what we do in erosion control. It's probably hard to see, but just here you've got a little head cut, we call it. It's when there's a kind of a staircase effect in the bed of the creek. So you've got a drop there of approximately 1 metre, and the water's falling over it like a little waterfall, and that's chewing out the base, and it's working back upstream and causing erosion, like you saw in that picture a few pictures before where the creek blew out. So this is in Scotts Creek, and what we do to fix this is build something like this. It's a rock chute. This is in the process of building, so there's no water in it yet, but that's the top up there where it's a kind of flat area. Then you get a nice gradient here of 1 in 20, and it's that gradient is designed so that fish can move up there when the water's flowing. And then you get a little flat area down the bottom here as well. So it's shaped like a high-heeled stiletto, basically, heel, slope and toe. And this is designed to stop the head cut effect. So that as the water comes through here, there's less pressure at any point for the water to wear away the bed or banks of the stream. And this is we use these structures where you'll get a steeper gradient in the waterway, which at some point begins to erode significantly. This is a fish way. This is another thing we do, put in fish ladders. This one is up at the Trestle Bridge. If you go for a walk on the Trestle Bridge, you can always see this one down below you. There's the weir, and it's designed to allow the fish to go up past the weir. Now, weirs and other obstacles we've been putting into our waterway system since we settled the area, and they create a big problem for fish. And so we have to put something like this in, and I'll show you how it works. And here you see the water coming down, and the fish can move up behind the stones and gradually get back upstream. We've had, recently we had sightings of the grayling, which is a rare listed fish in our Curdies system. And we know that the grayling are coming back because we've taken out all these obstacles, because the grayling need to move between the estuary and the upper reaches to have a healthy life cycle. Here's another one at Murfitt's Bridge. You can see this one too if you stand on Murfitt's Bridge and look to the east. That's where it's dry. Here's where it's wet. Again, you can see the water flowing over the weir, and the fish will be able to get up on top of that weir. The other final thing I want to point out is that we do in-stream habitat. These are fish hotels that we make and we put into waterways. Fish, the estuary perch love to get in there. Again, roots, balls we put in. Again, the fish love those. This is where we hope to put some in above the estuary in these blue areas where there's not much wood at all. In the deeper spots, you know, 4 or 5 metres deep. So there's going to be no problems with boating. And I'd like to finish with a picture of the perfect waterway. That's how they want to look. So if you want to have a waterway like that on your property, give me a call and we'll see what we can do. Also, we're going to be looking for projects this year. So if anybody has anyone who has riparian waterways that they want to fence off and rehabilitate, get in touch with us. Thank you very much.